Twice in the last couple of years, I've met with sellers that wanted me to list their home. But when I estimated the value of their home, both times the sellers insisted that their home was worth far more money. In one case, the folks I knew were planning way ahead. They weren't going to sell for a year or 18 months. And so every few weeks, I would send them a market update showing them what similar homes to theirs had sold for, hoping that over the course of that year or so, I would convince them of reality. And in the other case, it was a group of family members who had inherited a house, and so were making a group decision. And they had a family member in California convinced that if they made some improvements to the house, they could ask way more money. I always get nervous when that relative from California is involved and thinks they know more about the Indiana market than the Indiana Realtor. And you know, if they were willing to list for just a little bit more, experiment with the market, that would be okay with me because I've been wrong before. But they wanted to ask a dramatically higher price, so I refused the listing. And a few weeks later, they hit the market for $65,000 more than I thought their home was worth. That was 20% more, by the way. And they were on the market for 6 weeks, lowering their price every week or two. And they eventually recently went under contract with a buyer for a price way closer to the one I had suggested to them originally than the one they had listed it for. And those other folks who were waiting to put their house on the market, I drove by their house just last week and I saw another Realtor sign in front and saw that they had listed it for $50,000 more than I thought it was worth. That is 10% more than I thought it was worth. And again, I've been wrong before. I hope they get every penny of that money, but I fear that they won't. And that might lead you to ask, Kurt, why don't you just list the house for what the seller wants to list it for and see what happens? But you know, that puts me in a really difficult ethical position to start with. One is when buyers call me and want to see that house, the only way for me to properly represent my seller is to lie to the buyer and tell them that I think that the house is worth more than I think in my own heart that it's really worth. And I refuse to do that. And secondly, during all that marketing time, I'm going to be spending my money and my time trying to convince the world of something that I don't even believe. So anyway, as I said, I've been wrong before, but I'll make this deal with you. If I can give you $1 for every time I've been wrong, you have to give me $1 for every time I've been right. And you're going to end up owing me a lot of money.